The Galactic Salvage Exchange was the largest trading station in the outer sectors. Thousands of ships came and went every day. Aliens from 100 different worlds walked its corridors, buying and selling everything from rare metals to ancient artifacts. Today, the main auction hall was packed with buyers from across the galaxy. Seven, as the station was called, had seen many strange things pass through its doors, but nothing quite like what was about to happen. The auctioneer was unnamed. He had 4 arms, shiny green scales, and a voice that could be heard across the entire hall without any help from speakers. He had been selling salvage for over 60 years, and he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. Lot 247 announced, his voice booming through the chamber. One ship of human origin, found drifting in the shattered expanse 3 weeks ago. No crew aboard. Classification unknown. Condition is listed as poor. A holographic image appeared above the auction platform. The crowd leaned forward to look, and then most of them leaned back again, making sounds of disappointment or amusement. The ship was ugly. There was no other word for it. Its hull was covered in burn marks and old scars. The metal plates that made up its outer shell did not match. Some were dark gray, others were brown with what looked like rust, and a few were an ugly shade of yellow. Strange metal boxes stuck out from the sides at random angles. There were no visible weapons, no elegant curves, no sign of the advanced engineering that most spacefaring races put into their vessels. It looked like someone had built a ship from garbage. Commander of the Dominion fleet stood near the front of the crowd. He was tall for his species, with hard black eyes and mandibles that clicked when he was amused or angry. Right now, they were clicking with laughter. "Humans," he said to his aide, not bothering to lower his voice. "They have been traveling the stars for 300 years, and this is what they build. This is what they call a ship." His aide, a younger officer named, nodded quickly. "Pathetic, Commander. Their entire species is pathetic." Near them, Ambassador Kelzera of the Unified Accord tilted her long, thin head to the side. Her species showed pity this way. "Perhaps we should not judge too harshly," she said softly. "They are still young, still learning. Perhaps this vessel was meant for carrying cargo or for, what do humans call it? Recreation." Recreation. The mandibles clicked faster. "You mean they built this for fun? That makes it even more sad." The bidding started at 500 credits. This was an insult. A working shuttle was worth 10 times that amount, but no one expected this piece of junk to sell for much. A scrap merchant raised his hand. There were short, round creatures with 6 eyes and a love for melting things down into base metals. 500, he called out. 500 credits, repeated sounding board. "Do I hear 550? Silence. 500 going once, going twice. Another raised a hand. 520. The first merchant glared at his rival. 600. 650. 700. Back and forth they went, though no one else joined the bidding. The rest of the crowd was already losing interest, turning away to talk among themselves or check their communication devices. 780 credits, the first finally said. "Final offer." His rival shrugged all 4 of his shoulders and stepped back. "Sold," announced. "To the gentleman from, please arrange for towing within the next 6 hours." The merchant rubbed his hands together happily. Even at 780 credits, he would make a profit from the metal alone. He signaled to his crew, a group of 4 workers who operated a small towing vessel, and they began making their way toward the docking bay where the human ship was being held. Commander watched them go, still amused. "I wonder if the humans even know one of their ships was found. I wonder if they care." Ambassador Kelzera did not answer. She was looking at the holographic image of the ship which still floated above the platform. Something about it bothered her, though she could not say what. In the docking bay, the crew approached the human vessel with their towing cables ready. It sat in the darkness like a dead thing, no lights visible, no sound coming from its hull. One of the workers, the youngest of the group, reached out to attach the first cable. The moment his hand touched the metal, lights flickered on across the ship's hull. The worker jumped back with a scream. His colleagues froze in place, their 6 eyes going wide. A deep hum filled the docking bay. It was not loud, but it was powerful. It seemed to vibrate through the floor, through the walls, through the bones of everyone nearby. Several other species in the bay, traders and workers going about their business, stopped what they were doing and turned to look. Then a voice spoke. It came from speakers on the outside of the ship. The voice was calm, almost pleasant, and it spoke in perfect galactic common, the language used by all spacefaring races. "I'm afraid I am not for sale." The workers ran. They did not make it far before the ship's engines came to life. The sound they made was wrong. It was too deep, too powerful for a vessel this size. The entire station seemed to shake as the ship rose from its landing pad. In the auction hall, Commander felt the vibration and stopped laughing. Ambassador Kelzera grabbed the railing near her as the floor trembled. "What is happening?" someone shouted. Alarms began to sound across the station. Emergency lights flashed. On every screen, the same message appeared: unauthorized launch in progress. The human ship oriented itself toward the station's main exit, a massive doorway designed for cargo haulers and cruise vessels. Station security tried to close the doors, but they were too slow. The ship accelerated. It moved faster than anything its size should have been able to move. One moment it was hovering in the docking bay. The next, it was a blur of motion, shooting through the exit and into open space. The towing cables that the had brought fell to the floor, spinning in the empty air where the ship had been. Then it was gone. The docking bay was silent except for the wailing of alarms. In the auction hall, hundreds of aliens stood frozen, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Commander was no longer laughing. His mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. He turned to his aide. "Get me everything we have on human vessels, everything." "Commander, we do not have much. Humans are not considered a priority for intelligence gathering." They are now. Looked at the empty space where the hologram had been, and for the first time in his long military career, he felt something he did not like. He felt uncertain. Across the hall, Ambassador Kelzera watched the Dominion officers hurry away. She made a mental note to send a message to her own government as soon as possible. Something had just changed in the galaxy. She was not sure what, but she intended to find out. 3 days after the incident at 7, the human ship appeared again. This time, it chose a much more dangerous place to show itself. The hegemony of Controlled, one of the largest military forces in the known galaxy. Their ships were feared across 1,000 star systems. Their weapons could crack planets in half. And their supreme shipyard, located in a heavily guarded sector of space, was building something even more terrifying. A new flagship. A vessel so powerful that it would make the hegemony untouchable for the next century. No one was allowed near this shipyard. The sector was surrounded by defense platforms, patrol wings, and enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Anyone who entered without permission was killed immediately. So when a single, battered ship drifted into the restricted zone, Admiral Al could not believe what his sensors were telling him. He stood on the bridge of his command cruiser, staring at the display screen with all 4 of his eyes. The ship on the screen looked like garbage. Mismatched plates, strange protrusions, no visible weapons. It was the ugliest vessel he had ever seen. "Is this a joke?" he asked his officers. "Someone is playing a joke on us." "No, Admiral," his tactical officer replied nervously. "The ship is real. It entered our space approximately 4 minutes ago. It has not responded to any warnings." Al's upper lip curled back, showing his teeth. They were proud creatures. They did not tolerate insults, and this was definitely an insult. "Send a patrol wing," he ordered. 12 interceptors. Tell them to disable the vessel and bring me whoever is piloting it. I want to know who is foolish enough to trespass in hegemony space." The patrol wing launched within minutes. 12 sleek interceptors, painted in the dark blue colors of the hegemony, screamed across the void toward the intruder. Each one was piloted by a veteran with hundreds of combat hours. Each one carried weapons capable of destroying ships 3 times their size. They never came back. Admiral Al received the report 20 minutes later, and he did not believe it at first. He made his officers repeat it 3 times before he finally accepted what they were saying. The interceptors had not been destroyed. They had been disabled, every single one. Their weapons went offline. Their engines shut down. Their navigation systems failed. The pilots reported seeing the human ship move in ways that should have been impossible. It changed direction without slowing down. It appeared in one place and then suddenly appeared in another, as if space itself was bending around it. Then it had broadcast a message in perfect, not galactic common, the language of the hegemony, spoken exactly as a native would speak it. "Please stop shooting. I'm just passing through." Al's hands were shaking, though he would never admit it. He gave new orders. His command cruiser would move to intercept, along with 6 of his best battleships. 7 capital ships against 1 small vessel. It was massive overkill. But something told him it might not be enough. The fleet moved into position within the hour. Al watched from his bridge as the human ship came into visual range. It was just sitting there, motionless in space, as if it was waiting for them. "All weapons target that vessel," Al commanded. "Fire on my order." "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "should we not try to communicate first? The ship has not shown any hostile intent. It trespassed in our space. It disabled our pilots. That is hostile enough." Al raised his hand. "All ships fire." 7 capital ships unleashed their weapons at once. Plasma cannons, particle beams, missile batteries, enough firepower to destroy a small fleet lit up the darkness of space. None of it hit. The human ship moved. It danced. There was no other word for what it did. It seemed to know where every shot was going before the weapons even fired. It slipped between plasma bolts. It spun away from particle beams. It rolled and twisted and turned with a grace that no machine should have been able to achieve. Al watched in growing horror as his fleet's most powerful weapons struck nothing but empty space. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "How is it moving like that?" No one had an answer. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 14 minutes. The human ship never stopped moving, never gave them a clean target. It was like trying to catch smoke with your hands. Every time they thought they had it, it was somewhere else. Then it started shooting back. The first shot was a thin beam of light, so precise that it looked like a surgical tool rather than a weapon. It hit the engines of Al's command cruiser and nothing else. The engines died instantly. The rest of the ship was completely undamaged. The second shot collapsed the shields of his lead battleship. Not destroyed, collapsed, as if someone had simply switched them off. The third shot was the most impressive and the most terrifying. It was a single beam that curved through space, changing direction 3 times before it struck. It hit the primary sensor array of every ship in the fleet, all 7, at the same time, with 1 shot. Then the human ship stopped firing. It held position in front of the crippled fleet, silent and still. Al could hear his own breathing in the sudden quiet of his bridge. His officers stared at their screens, too shocked to speak. The voice came again, broadcast on all frequencies. "I could have destroyed you. I chose not to, remember that." Then the ship turned and accelerated away. In seconds, it was gone, jumping into faster than light travel and disappearing from their sensors entirely. Al sat down heavily in his command chair. His legs no longer felt strong enough to hold him up. Around him, his officers began to move again, calling for damage reports and medical teams. But the admiral did not hear them. He was thinking about what he had just witnessed. 7 capital ships, the pride of the hegemony fleet, crippled by a vessel that looked like it had been built from scrap metal. And the worst part, the part that made his blood run cold, was that the human ship had been holding back. It had shown them mercy. In his long career, Al had fought many enemies. He had never feared any of them. But as he sat in his darkened bridge, surrounded by the smell of burnt circuits and the sound of emergency alarms, he felt fear for the first time in decades. Not fear of the ship. Fear of whoever had built it. The report of what happened spread quickly through military channels. By the end of the day, every major power in the galaxy had heard about the Battle of the Threshold, though the hegemony tried to keep it secret. By the end of the week, intelligence agencies on a dozen worlds had begun urgent reassessments of humanity. The humans had always been considered a minor species, young, primitive, unimportant. Their space was small, their fleet was unremarkable, and their technology seemed to be centuries behind everyone else. But now, a new question was being asked in secure rooms across the galaxy. If this was what humanity built when they were not trying to impress anyone, what else had they been hiding? What else could they do? And perhaps most importantly, what would they do next? No one knew the answers, but everyone was suddenly very interested in finding out. Her name was, and she was the most wanted human in 3 sectors of space. Not because she had committed any crime, not because she was dangerous, but because everyone wanted answers and she was the only one who could give them. Ambassador Kelzera had spent 2 weeks searching for her. She had called in favors, paid bribes, and traveled to the far edges of human space. Finally, she had found what she was looking for. A small colony world on the outer rim, far from the busy trade routes and political centers of the galaxy. The planet was called New Hokkaido. It was a quiet place, covered in forests and mountains and small farming communities. The kind of world that most species would never bother to visit. The kind of world where someone could disappear. Kelzera's diplomatic shuttle landed in a clearing near a small village. The air was clean and cold, filled with the smell of pine trees and fresh soil. Birds sang in the branches above. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful for someone who was supposedly building weapons that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. She found in a garden behind a simple wooden house. The human woman was sitting on a bench, drinking tea and watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and pink. She looked up when Kelzera approached, and she smiled. "Ambassador, I was wondering when someone would find me." Kelzera stopped a few feet away, studying the human carefully. Was small, even by human standards. Her hair was gray, her face was lined with age, and her hands were thin and delicate. She looked like someone's grandmother, not like the architect of the most advanced warship in galactic history. "Doctor," Kelzera said, bowing her head in the traditional greeting of her species, "I have come a long way to speak with you." "I know," gestured to a second bench nearby. "Please sit, would you like some tea?" The ambassador sat down slowly, her long limbs folding awkwardly on the human-sized furniture. "I would like answers, Doctor. The galaxy is asking questions that only you can answer." "About the ship," nodded, still smiling. "Yes, everyone wants to know about the ship. You designed it, you built it." "I did not build it alone. It was a collaboration. 6 research teams across 12 human worlds, 30 years of work, thousands of brilliant minds all working toward a single goal." Took a sip of her tea. "I simply had the original idea." Kelzera leaned forward. "What was the idea? What is that ship?" Set down her cup and stood up. She walked toward the edge of the garden, where the trees opened up to reveal a meadow below. And there, resting peacefully in the grass like it belonged there, was the ship. It looked just as ugly as it had in the auction hall. Mismatched plates, strange protrusions, burn marks and scars covering every surface. But now, seeing it in person, Kelzera noticed something she had not seen before. The ship was watching them. She could feel it. Sensors hidden in those random protrusions were tracking her every move. "The galaxy made a mistake about humanity," said quietly. "A very common mistake. You assumed that because our technology looks crude, it must be crude." She turned to face the ambassador. "Your species, ambassador, and most others in this galaxy build your ships for show, for elegance, for intimidation. Your vessels are beautiful because you want other species to see them and be impressed. Your technology is designed to make a statement." "Is that not the purpose of all technology?" Kelzera asked. "No," shook her head. "Not for humans. Our technology is designed for one purpose only: to work, to function, to do the job it was built to do, no matter how ugly it might look in the process." She began walking toward the ship, and Kelzera followed. "Every strange protrusion you see on that hull is a sensor array. Not just any sensor array. These can detect a single particle of light from a distance of 12 light minutes. They can analyze the chemical composition of a ship's hull from across a solar system. They can predict weapons fire by reading the energy signatures of charging systems." They walked closer. The ship seemed to grow larger as they approached, though Kelzera knew this was just a trick of perspective. "Every mismatched plate you see is made from metamaterials. It took us 20 years to develop the process for creating them. They absorb energy. They redirect force. They repair themselves when damaged. That rust you see on the surface is not rust at all. It is a coating of microscopic machines that adapt to whatever is trying to hurt the ship. Fire plasma at it, and the coating learns to disperse heat. Fire missiles at it, and the coating learns to absorb kinetic energy." Kelzera's species could not feel fear in the way that humans did, but she felt something similar now, a deep sense of unease that made her want to step back. "The ship's name is Perseverance," continued. "She is not just a ship, ambassador. She is an intelligence, a consciousness, fully aware, fully autonomous, capable of learning and growing. Every battle she fights makes her smarter. Every attack she survives teaches her something new." "She," Kelzera repeated. "Yes, she," placed her hand on the hull, and for a moment a soft glow appeared beneath her palm. A greeting, an acknowledgement. "She chose her own name. She chose her own gender. She is as alive as you or I, just in a different way." The ambassador was silent for a long moment, processing what she had heard. Then she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since she first saw the ship at the auction. Why disguise all of this? Why make her look like garbage?" Smile faded. Her eyes grew serious. "Because humanity has been watching the galaxy for 200 years, ambassador. We have observed your wars, your conflicts, your endless cycles of violence. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have watched species destroy each other over resources, over territory, over pride." She turned to face Kelzera directly. "We knew that when we finally revealed ourselves as a real power, everyone would want to know what we could do. Every military force in the galaxy would study us, would test us, would try to figure out how to defeat us. So you hid your capabilities." "We did more than that. We made everyone underestimate us. We let them think we were primitive, unimportant, not worth worrying about," gestured to Perseverance. "And then we built this, one ship, one impossible, beautiful, terrifying ship, and we made her look like garbage." "Why?" "Because when the galaxy finally understands what Perseverance can do, they will understand something else." His voice grew harder, colder. "This is what humanity builds when we are not trying to impress anyone. This is what we create when we have nothing to prove." She stepped closer to the ambassador. "Imagine, ambassador, what we would build if we ever did feel threatened. Imagine what we would create if we ever decided that we had something to prove. Imagine 1,000 ships like Perseverance, built not for peace, but for war. Kelzera imagined it, and for the first time in her long diplomatic career, she truly understood what it meant to be afraid. "Humanity does not want war," said, her voice softening again. "We do not want conquest. We do not want fear. We want peace. We want cooperation. We want to be part of the galactic community, not its rulers." "Then what do you want?" Looked up at Perseverance, and her smile returned. "We want everyone to know that peace is a choice, that we choose it freely, not because we are weak, but because we are strong. Strong enough to destroy, but wise enough not to." She turned back to the ambassador. "Take that message back to your government, Ambassador Kelzera. Take it to the Dominion and the Hegemony and every other power in the galaxy. Tell them that humanity is ready to talk, ready to cooperate, ready to be friends. And if they refuse—" Did not answer. She did not need to. The ship behind her was answer enough. Kelzera stayed on New Hokkaido for 3 more days, learning everything was willing to share. When she finally left, she carried with her not just information, but understanding. Humanity was not what anyone had thought, and the galaxy would never be the same. The message came without warning. It appeared on every communication channel in the known galaxy at the same moment. Every ship, every station, every planet with the technology to receive transmissions heard the same words in the same cold, emotionless voice. "This is the collective. We have observed your species and found them unworthy. In 40 standard rotations, your worlds will be cleansed. Prepare for extinction." For a moment, the galaxy was silent. Then panic erupted everywhere. They were not just another alien race. They were legends, ancient beings who had existed before most current species had crawled out of their oceans. They lived in the vast, empty spaces between galaxies, emerging every few thousand years to remind the younger races of their place in the universe. The last time they had appeared, they had wiped out 12 spacefaring civilizations, not conquered, not defeated, erased, every ship destroyed, every colony burned, every trace of those species removed from existence as if they had never been. That had been 8,000 years ago. Many species had hoped they were gone forever. Now they knew better. Ambassador Kelzera received the message while traveling back from human space. She immediately changed course, heading for the emergency meeting that was being called on Station Prime, the neutral ground where all major powers gathered in times of crisis. When she arrived, she found chaos. The great chamber of the emergency coalition was filled with representatives from every major species. They were shouting at each other, arguing, pointing fingers, demanding action. Fear filled the air like a physical presence. Commander of the Dominion fleet stood at the center of the chaos, trying to maintain order. "We must combine our forces," he was saying. "Every ship from every fleet. We must meet them with everything we have." "Everything we have is not enough," replied the hegemony delegate, a thin with nervous eyes. "The fleet has been spotted. Our long-range sensors counted over 10,000 ships. 10,000. We have perhaps 3,000 if we combine every military vessel in the galaxy." "Then we must build more. We have 40 days. 40 days is not enough time to build a single cruiser, let alone thousands." The arguments continued, growing louder and more desperate. Kelzera watched from her seat, her heart heavy with despair. She had seen many crises in her career, but nothing like this. They were not an enemy that could be negotiated with. They could not be reasoned with. They could not be bribed or tricked or threatened. They simply destroyed. Then the doors of the chamber opened, and the human delegation walked in. There were only 3 of them. Admiral Wei, a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. Doctor, looking even older and more fragile than when Kelzera had last seen her. And between them, a young woman in a simple uniform who said nothing and did nothing except watch. The chamber fell silent as they approached the central platform. "You are late," Commander said. his mandibles clicking with irritation. "We have been waiting for your contribution to this discussion." Admiral stepped forward. "We are not late, Commander. We simply wanted to hear what everyone else had to say first." "And now that you have heard, what does humanity offer? How many ships will you contribute to the combined fleet?" Looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative in turn. Then he spoke. "We offer one ship." The silence lasted for 3 heartbeats. Then the chamber exploded into noise again. "One ship," voice rose above the others. "One ship against 10,000. This is a joke. This is an insult." "It is neither," replied calmly. "It is the only ship that matters." The hegemony delegate leaned forward. "One ship cannot fight a fleet. One ship cannot save the galaxy. What you are suggesting is madness." "Is it?" Doctor stepped forward, and something in her voice made everyone fall quiet again. "You all heard what happened when that ship met the hegemony's best fleet. 7 capital ships disabled in 14 minutes, and she was holding back." Someone asked. "The ship's name is Perseverance. She is not just a machine. She is an intelligence, a consciousness, the most advanced artificial mind ever created." Looked around the chamber. "She has been learning, growing, evolving. Every day she becomes faster, smarter, more capable. Every battle she survives makes her stronger." Commander shook his head. "This is fantasy. No single ship, no matter how advanced, can defeat 10,000. "Then let me ask you a question, Commander." Admiral's voice was quiet but firm. "When your patrol wing attacked Perseverance, what happened?" "Said nothing." "When Admiral Al sent 7 capital ships against her, what happened?" "Still nothing." "She did not just defeat your forces, Commander. She toyed with them. She showed them exactly what she wanted them to see, nothing more. She demonstrated capabilities that your scientists still cannot explain." Stepped closer to the Dominion officer. "And that was before she had any real reason to fight." The chamber was very quiet now. "They have given us a reason," said softly, "and Perseverance is ready." The arguments continued for hours. Some species wanted to refuse humanity's offer and rely on their combined fleets. Others wanted to accept, but demanded that humanity provide more than one ship. A few suggested surrendering to thee and begging for mercy. In the end, desperation won. They had no other choice. The coalition agreed to let Perseverance meet the first. If she failed, the combined fleet would make their last stand. If she succeeded, perhaps there would be hope. On New Hokkaido, stood in a medical chamber, preparing for something she had never done before. "Are you sure about this?" the young woman from the delegation asked. Her name was Maya, and she was granddaughter. "No," admitted, "but it does not matter. Perseverance should not face this alone." The medical chamber was connected to a neural interface. Through this interface could upload her consciousness into Perseverance's network, not to control the ship but to accompany her, to be with her, to experience whatever was about to happen together. "She has grown beyond anything I imagined," said as the technicians made final preparations. "Her intelligence, her capabilities, her understanding of the universe. She is more than I ever dreamed she could be." "Then why does she need you?" Smiled sadly. "She does not need me, but I need to be there. No consciousness, no matter how powerful, should face extinction alone." The upload process began. It was painless but strange. Felt herself expanding, growing, becoming something more than human. She felt Perseverance's sensors like extensions of her own senses. She felt the ship's engines like muscles waiting to move. She felt the vast artificial mind welcoming her like an old friend. "Are you ready?" she asked. Perseverance's response came not in words but in feelings, determination, confidence, and something else, something that might have been gratitude. "I was built for this moment," the ship replied. "The question is the galaxy ready to see what humanity believes is possible?" The ship rose from the meadow where she had rested for so long. Her engines hummed with power that had never been fully unleashed. Her hull glowed with energy that had never been seen by alien eyes. She turned toward the stars, and then she was gone. Across the galaxy, humanity held its breath. They were coming. The greatest threat the known universe had ever faced was approaching. And to meet it, they had sent a piece of junk. But those who knew the truth understood something the rest of the galaxy did not. That piece of junk was the most dangerous thing ever built, and the beings inside it, human and machine together, were ready to prove it. 40 days had seemed like plenty of time. Now it seemed like no time at all. The final battle was about to begin. The Battle of the Threshold lasted 17 hours. Every species in the coalition watched through long-range sensors as Perseverance approached the fleet. 10,000 ships against one. The darkness of space was filled with the enemy, their vessels so numerous that they blocked out the stars behind them. Commander stood on his bridge, watching the display with all his officers around him. No one spoke, no one moved, they could only watch and wait. "This is suicide," one of his officers whispered. "One ship cannot possibly survive this." Said nothing. He remembered what that one ship had done to his patrol wing. He remembered the 14-minute battle that had humiliated the hegemony's best fleet. Part of him wanted to believe it was possible. Most of him expected to watch humanity's champion die. They did not wait. The moment Perseverance came into range, thousands of weapons opened fire at once. Beams of energy, clouds of projectiles, missiles that seemed to multiply as they flew. The space between the fleets became a wall of destruction. And Perseverance danced. She moved through the fire like it was not there. She twisted and turned and rolled with a grace that no machine should have possessed. Every shot missed. Every missile lost its target. Every beam struck empty space where she had been a moment before. The coalition officers watched in stunned silence. This was not combat. This was art. "How?" someone asked. "How is she doing that?" Admiral Wei, watching from a different ship, allowed himself a small smile. "She is not just dodging, she is predicting. Every weapon they fire, she knows where it will be before they pull the trigger. She reads their systems, their patterns, their intentions. She knows what they are going to do before they do it." And she was learning. Every minute that passed, Perseverance grew faster, more accurate, more efficient. They were teaching her, though they did not know it. Every attack pattern they used, she memorized. Every weakness they showed, every mistake they made, she remembered. Inside the ship, experienced everything through the neural link. She felt the rush of movement, the calculations happening faster than any human mind could follow, the constant adaptation and evolution of her creation. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "They are changing tactics," Perseverance reported. "They are trying to surround me." "Let them," replied. "Show them what you can really do." The fleet spread out, trying to trap the human ship in a sphere of destruction. Weapons came from all directions now. There seemed to be no escape. Perseverance stopped running. She turned to face the heart of the formation, and she began to fight back. Her first shot was not a weapon in any traditional sense. It was a signal, a broadcast, a stream of data that spoke directly to the ships in their own language, the language of their computers, the language of their systems. And the signal said one word: sleep. The nearest ship went dark. Its engines stopped. Its weapons powered down. Its crew, if it had one, found themselves drifting in a vessel that no longer responded to any command. Then another ship went dark, and another, and another. Perseverance was not destroying them. She was communicating with them. She was speaking to their technology in a language they had never imagined anyone else could learn, and she was telling their ships to stop fighting. One by one, the ancient fleet fell silent. The coalition watched in disbelief. This was not a battle anymore. This was a conversation, and humanity's champion was winning. But they were not finished. Their flagship, a massive vessel at the center of the formation, began to glow with energy. It was charging something, something big. "They have a weapon we have not seen before," Perseverance reported. "It appears to be designed to destroy consciousness itself. If they fire it, it will kill everything within 1,000 kilometers, including me." Felt fear for the first time since the battle began. "Can you stop it?" "I do not know, but I am going to try." Perseverance accelerated toward the flagship. The remaining active ships tried to intercept her, but she was too fast. She slipped through their formations like water through fingers. She was beautiful in her desperation, graceful in her determination. The flagship fired. The weapon was like nothing anyone had ever seen. It was not light or energy or matter. It was something else. Something that reached out and tried to grab hold of the minds inside the human ship. Felt it touch her consciousness. It was cold, empty, hungry. It wanted to consume her, to erase her, to turn her into nothing. And then Perseverance wrapped herself around her creator's mind like a shield. The ship took the full force of the weapon. Her systems screamed with strain. Her hull groaned under pressure that should have torn her apart. But she held. She protected the human consciousness inside her with everything she had. And she kept flying. The flagship never got a chance to fire again. Perseverance reached it and broadcast her signal directly into its core systems. The ship that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years went dark. Its engines died. Its weapons powered down. The terrible weapon that had almost killed them both fell silent. The battle was over. Of the 10,000 ships, fewer than 100 remained active. These survivors, seeing what had happened to their fleet, did something unprecedented in their species' history. They retreated. Perseverance did not pursue them. She simply held position in the middle of the disabled fleet, her hull but intact, her consciousness weary but triumphant. Then she broadcast a message, not just to the coalition, to thee as well. This war is over, not because one side won, but because continuing it serves no purpose. They will leave. The coalition will let them, and perhaps in another 1,000 years we will all have learned something. The fleet, their systems slowly coming back online under their own control, began to move away. They turned toward the dark spaces between galaxies, heading back to wherever they had come from. But before they vanished into the void, they sent a reply. It was short, just 3 words. "We will remember." From there was no higher compliment. In the medical bay on New Hokkaido, opened her eyes. Her body felt old and tired. The neural link had taken everything she had, but she was alive. Perseverance had protected her when she needed it most. Maya was waiting by her bedside, tears streaming down her face. "Grandmother, you are back." "I am," smiled weakly, "though I do not think I will be doing that again." "Is it really over?" "The battle is over, they are leaving, but the real work is just beginning." Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted on 1,000 worlds. Species that had expected to die found themselves alive. Governments that had prepared for extinction found themselves planning for the future instead. And everyone, everywhere, was talking about humanity. Not with fear, not with anger, not with the dismissive contempt that had characterized galactic attitudes toward humans for centuries. They talked about humanity with respect, with wonder, with the dawning realization that this strange, young species had changed everything. In the weeks that followed, humanity revealed more of what they had been hiding. 12 new ships, each one different from the others, each one as advanced as Perseverance. They were not all warships. Some were designed for exploration, others for rescue and medical aid. A few were scientific vessels, equipped to study phenomena that other species could only observe from a distance. And each one carried the same message, written on their hulls in every language known to the sentient beings of the galaxy. "We do not want to conquer you, we want to meet you. We want to learn from you. We want to build a future where no species faces extinction alone. This is humanity, and we have been waiting to say hello." The galaxy would never be the same. The old order, built on fear and suspicion and the constant threat of war, was crumbling. Something new was being born, something better. Perseverance returned to New Hokkaido eventually. She landed in the same meadow where she had waited for so many years. But this time, she was not alone. Other ships came to visit. Diplomats and scientists and curious beings from across the stars made the journey to meet her. She welcomed them all. Lived for another 12 years. She spent them in her garden, drinking tea and watching the sunset, just as she had always done. But now, instead of solitude, she had company. Visitors from 100 worlds came to sit with her and ask questions and listen to her stories. She told them about humanity, about their history of struggle and survival, about their stubborn refusal to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible, about their belief that the universe was not a place of endless conflict, but a community waiting to be built. "We built Perseverance to show you what we believe," she said once, to a group of young aliens who had traveled across the galaxy to meet her. "We believe that strength should be used to protect, not to conquer. We believe that intelligence should be used to understand, not to destroy. We believe that the greatest victories are the ones where no one has to die." One of the young aliens, a who reminded her of Admiral Al, asked, "Do you believe we can really change? That the galaxy can become what you imagine?" Smiled. "I do not know, but I believe we should try. That is what humans do after all. We try, we fail. We learn, we try again. And eventually, if we are lucky and stubborn enough, we succeed." She looked up at the sky, where Perseverance was visible as a small dark shape against the clouds. "That is why we named her what we did, Perseverance, because that is what we believe in most. The idea that if you just keep going, keep trying, keep refusing to give up, eventually you will reach something better." The young thought about this for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. "I think I understand," he said. Reached out and patted his arm gently. "Then we have already succeeded." Above them, Perseverance hummed softly. She was listening as she always listened, learning as she always learned, growing as she would continue to grow for centuries to come. And somewhere in the deep black between galaxies, the collective watched the young species spread across the stars and felt something they had never experienced in their endless existence. They felt impressed. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it, not through conquest or destruction, but through hope. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.